Hey, friends, I'm your host, Dr. Elizabeth Ssemanda, the intuitive psychiatrist, and you're listening to Stepping into Soul Power. Friends, got a treat for you today. Right now, we're going through some tough times in this world. There's a lot more conflict. There's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a trauma. People are really going through it. And we have someone who is an expert at healing trauma and really reclaiming your power. But what's so great about it is the how. Is the how she does it in such an innovative way. She is an expert at trauma recovery, and she bridges neuroscience, psychology, spirituality, and has a Center for Resilience Informed Therapy. Dr. Arielle Schwartz, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you, Dr. Elizabeth. I have been looking forward to this. I really love when we have folks in our psychiatric community that integrate the wisdom of the body and really can kind of do body, mind, soul work. And you are unique. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Likewise, so there is a specific type of therapy that you do. It's resilience informed therapy, and it excites me. But there are people out there who don't know what that is. Can you tell us a little bit about resilience informed therapy?
Yeah. Actually, what resilience informed therapy is that it's a kind of integrative model that incorporates a variety of other existing modalities. So it's not in itself new, but it's a synthesis. And so those existing modalities include somatic psychology or body centered psychotherapy, EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, parts work therapies, and all of that housed within a relational framework where we have the ability to just really just feel comfortable and connected with each other. And then from there, we can also incorporate what we'll talk about as applied polyvagal theory, or basically nervous system regulation within that whole context. So I like to think about resilience informed therapy as this kind of broad highway with a lot of lanes. And that when we work in this model, we can seamlessly move between parts work and somatic work and EMDR therapy and relational work and feel like we're just having a smooth drive, switching lanes, but it doesn't feel like we're moving out of the highway.
I love it. As a psychiatrist, I hear all of those things and I get excited. Just I've seen such great things with EMDR, with all of those things, but I love that you're interweaving them. For those people who this work is a little bit new, can you be more specific about what are the benefits? Like what do people when they go for somatic therapy, when they go for EMDR, what benefits are they getting?
Yeah. I mean, it's broad ranging and really what we're looking for is a greater sense of choice about the state of mind, a greater feeling of control about how you relate to your emotions, greater capacity for self-compassion, and the ability to actually broaden the range of emotional capacity. So it's not so much about kind of regulating in a way that I always have to stay calm, cool, and collected, right? In as you spoke about in your intro, we're living in a really challenging world right now. We are exposed to sources of threat in the news and perhaps in our own lives on a daily basis. And so knowing how to do, deep nourishment care for yourself and how to seek out resources that help you tap into that is really gold right now of like, okay, here's how I can come back and ground and feel centered and feel connected, even if the world is spinning like this all around me.
Oh, yes. No, it's just like it's incredibly powerful when you are able to step into any environment and figure it out. Can you tell us a little bit about what being in a chronic state of fight or flight does to our mind, what it does to our body, what it
Mhm.
does to our soul?
Yeah, yeah, good question at all of those levels. So when we think about being in chronic states of the sympathetic nervous system, right, which is what forms the basis of that being in fight or flight. We're going to have more cortisol. We're going to have the resources of our body going out into the muscles, into preparation for, as you said, fleeing something that's dangerous, protecting ourselves from it. And so we tend to feel more muscular tension. We tend to feel more vigilant and on guard. We tend to feel more anxious or prone to panic. And on the flip side, we tend to have more difficulty with digestion, with rest, with sleep at night, and it inhibits our immune system from doing its job, right? And so we tend to get more conditions that are related to basically not having a robust immune system. We might be more prone to just getting sick with everyday colds, or we might ultimately have more of a predisposition for things like cancer because the immune system actually needs to be on board to help us kind of recognize when cells are moving in a direction that's not healthy, and our immune system will target and basically kill off those cells. So when we're stuck in the sympathetic nervous system and high cortisol, that has an inverse relationship with the functioning of our immune system. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So a multitude of different things that can really go haywire when we're in that chronic state. And I love that you made a really important point about like going from things as simple as an everyday cold to like cancer, where
Right.
it is much serious.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to recognize that, like, when we're looking at the health or the well-being of the nervous system, we don't wanna make the sympathetic nervous system or that fight flight state the total bad guy of the story. We actually need our sympathetic system for ultimate health. Like, our sympathetic nervous system also helps us do things like play and climb a mountain and dance and do a yoga practice, whatever it is. So we wanna have the ability to mobilize. We just don't wanna be stuck there. And on the flip side, like sometimes where we can get stuck is in the opposite imbalance where we're stuck in more of an imbalanced expression of the parasympathetic nervous system. In the short run, our parasympathetic system lets us rest and digest and deeply relax, and it allows our immune system to do its job and helps us heal. But sometimes trauma can lead us to get stuck in that parasympathetic state. Like if you imagine I couldn't run away, I couldn't protect myself, I couldn't say no, I couldn't call for help, I'm rendered kind of powerless and helpless. At that point, no, if there's nothing I can do to stop the trauma or stop the stress, or if it feels life threatening, I shut down.
Mm.
And being stuck in that shutdown has a different set of health consequences.
Can you talk about those health
Right? Right,
consequences?
because that's so important to recognize, and I think it's the missing piece in kind of understanding healing and healing from adversity is recognizing that particular stuckness. So what happens when we're stuck with an imbalanced expression of that parasympathetic system is that we actually don't have the normal checks and balances on our immune system.
Mm.
And so if we think about normal parasympathetic rest and digest, it's going to facilitate digestion, it's going to facilitate that immune system being kind of on board. But when that's off the rails, what begins to happen is that we have more conditions like IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, or we have more reflux. We have like too much digestion going on. We're going to have more inflammation throughout the body because what does the immune system do? Parasympathetic nervous system turns the immune system on, and it's going to target what's wrong, right? It's going to target those unhealthy cells, or it's going to target a virus or a bacteria. But let's say that the immune system is stuck in the on position, it
Mm.
can start to target healthy tissue. Right. And so
Mm.
we might start to notice that we have achy joints, that we have kind of inflammation that's contributing to migraine headaches, or that we start to have symptoms that take us towards autoimmune conditions because the immune system starts to target the body itself when it's kind of left in that unchecked position.
That's such an important point. I say this as as a psychiatrist.
Right.
What you're
That's right.
talking about is being able to have some sort of a balance.
Yes. We call it vagal efficiency, and we'll talk more about the vagus nerve, I'm sure, but we talk about this as a kind of nervous system flexibility or nervous system agility, where we can move between different nervous system states, and I'm not stuck up here and I'm not stuck down here. I have this ability to actually, I like to use this metaphor a lot, but like be in the driver's seat of our nervous system so that I'm not just pressing on the gas, I'm not just pressing on the brakes, right? I can
Yeah.
mobilize, I can come into a soft, brake system, and I don't have to use that emergency brake and get stuck there.
Oh. Well, let's talk about the vagus nerve. Tell there are many nerves, but this one seems to be incredibly important. If you can tell our listeners, what is the vagus nerve? Why is it so important?
Yeah. So if you're new to the vagus nerve, it's our 10th cranial nerve. We have 12 cranial nerves, and the majority of our cranial nerves stay kind of supraclavicular, right? Like they're
Yeah,
above the clavicle, right? So
yeah.
most of our cranial nerves are going to be around the eyes, the ears, the muscles of the face, and the tongue, the mouth, and so forth. They're basically going to help us integrate our senses. Now, the vagus nerve does that, but it also has an extensive network of circuitry that goes below the clavicle that descends into, obviously, in the throat, larynx and pharynx, but then below that into your heart, into your lungs, through the diaphragm, all the way down into your digestive organs and reproductive organs. And we can kind of consider this mind body super highway of communication where it allows what's happening here in your body to be well understood by your brainstem so that your brain can do an optimal job regulating body temperature, regulating heart rate, regulating your base respiratory rate, helping your digestive system work optimally, and all of your endocrine system organs do the best job possible.
Yeah, it does a lot of great things, and there are many ways of activating the vagus nerve. And so if you could talk about the ways that you do it in your practice.
Yeah. So when we think about the vagus nerve, it works very closely with the other cranial nerves, like the trigeminal nerve around your eye, down around through your mouth and jaw, works with the ocular nerve, with the nerves that go into your ears, the nerves that go around your tongue and your mouth. And so one of the ways, and like let me back up for just a moment, like why would we stimulate the vagus nerve, right? In part because we're going to open up that channel of communication between your body and your brain so your brain can do the best job possible. And we might also look at what would be the outcome of stimulating the vagus nerve. We're going to cultivate what we call greater vagal tone. What
Mm,
is the measure of vagal tone? Heart rate variability. What is that measuring? It's the ability to transition smoothly and rhythmically between sympathetic and parasympathetic states. So it's going to build that vagal flexibility or agility. So vagal tone is basically the same thing we've been talking about, just another language for it. And so how do we then stimulate optimal vagal tone? One is that we can naturally stimulate the vagus nerve where it comes close to the surface of our skin. There's really a whole slew of vagus nerve stimulation devices that are out there now. The research on them is robust, right? There is literally 30 years of research out there about looking at, initially, they were looking at implanted vagus nerve devices, those that
yeah,
go right into the neck or above the heart. And it works a little bit like a pacemaker, except that it's sending those electroceutical signals to the vagus nerve to keep the vagus nerve basically functioning optimally. But then they started to realize, wait a second, we can actually achieve these same positive benefits for things like rheumatoid arthritis and seizures and migraines and epilepsy, et cetera, et cetera. We can achieve those benefits transcutaneously. What does
yeah,
that mean? We can stimulate the vagus nerve through the skin. So where is the vagus nerve close to the surface of your skin, in the sides of your neck, around your ears, and around your face? But then you can go out there and purchase a $500 device, or you can use your free natural vagus nerve stimulation devices, which we'll call your hands and fingers, right? And your breath. Like there's a lot of ways that we can get into this. So
yeah.
self-applied massage around your eyes, around your ears, sides of the neck, deep breathing, mindful, coherent, rhythmic breathing, yoga, practices that, again, rhythmically alternate between feelings of energetic aliveness and rest are going to create that optimal tone.
I love, I love that. If you want, you can get a device, but there is something you can do on your own that is free.
Yeah, it's so true.
Is there, a particular practical sequence that you've done with clients that has been incredibly helpful?
Yeah. So the, I like to kind of be fluid with the sequences and I offer them probably more like you would think of as like a menu of choices.
Mm,
Because what I have found over the years is that, and I've literally taught vagal toning practices to thousands and thousands of students as well as to clients. And what I find is that some people say, wow, when you invite me to do that conscious breathing, I feel more anxious as soon as I pay attention to my breath. So we might kind of look at that menu and be like, I don't like shellfish, right? Like that breath work doesn't feel like my go-to right now, but is there something else on that menu? Maybe it's self-applied touch, doing that massage around your eyes, your temples, your scalp, my favorite, your ears, right? Maybe that's your go-to. And you're like, oh my gosh, as soon as I do that one, I feel relaxed. I'm going to put a check mark next to that one on the menu. So we can start to experiment for every individual what feels like a yes, what
mm,
feels like a maybe, what feels like I'm not yet. And even if we, going back to that example about breath, because it's a common one that people are like, oh, I don't like breath work, right? If we experiment with that one, we might notice that for that person, the reason why it brings up discomfort is that the feeling or the sound of the breath is linked in some way or another to a memory connected to trauma or adversity.
mm,
And if that's the case, breath work is still a valuable tool in the toolbox, but it's going to help us access the underlying trauma related memory that then we can ultimately work with to heal so that hopefully down the road, you will change your relationship to conscious breathing and say, actually, I just developed a taste for that. I like that on my menu now.
oh, that's beautiful. So, things that I just really strike home. I like that you tailor it to the individual, that it's not a one size fits all, that you're really being mindful about what their preferences are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
It starts with, may I jump in there for a second? It
Oh, yeah, yeah.
starts with something like what we call in the applied polyvagal work, something called neuroception, which is the ability to access the felt sense signals from your body about what feels nourishing and what feels unsure and maybe not so safe and what feels dangerous. And so we have to essentially build this self awareness as I would call kind of step one, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, we can start to apply the tools and build that capacity to really track like how is my nervous system giving me the signal back in return that that is actually producing the result of where I feel more connected, more grounded, more alive but not anxious, relaxed but not collapsed.
Mm, that is great. I was just thinking because you brought up trauma and how certain types of breath work might trigger some things. And it made me think about who's a good candidate or like for this type of work? Like is there a particular type of
Yeah. I would say that everyone's a good candidate, right? Like there's no one that I think wouldn't benefit from some vagal toning practices. And because we have a wide array, like let's go to another vagal toning practice, cold water exposure, right? It's
Mm,
very popular. We see people jumping in ice baths. Do I like an ice bath? No way. It's not pleasant for me. I go into more tension and more, right? Like little bits of cold exposure. I can do a cold run at the end of my shower. Yes, I can feel the aliveness and the tingliness. That feels like my level of yes to that one. But in terms of who's a good candidate for this, I would say that I think everyone, and I also think that like preventatively, even
mm,
if we're like, well, I don't have trauma. Do I need this? I want you to think of vagal toning practices like brushing and flossing your teeth.
Ooh.
It's like nerve flossing, right? Like we're
Maintenance.
all going to feel more connected as a result. And the challenge when we have a history of trauma is that sometimes doing something that helps us feel more connected to our bodies feels vulnerable at first. In those situations, we want to turn towards a practice that's going to open up that mind body channel of communication with sufficient support. So that's why therapeutically we call ourselves co-regulators. We're like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm going to be in the journey with you. We're going to track together how your nervous system responded to that touch or to that breath practice. We're going
yeah,
to notice if more freeze came up or if you responded with an ah and a sigh and a yes.
yeah.
And if we notice that more tension came up, we're going to hold that together.
Wow, wow. You said something. If we do this, we will feel more connected as a result. Can you give us a little bit more? Are you talking about connected to ourselves, connected to other people? Like what's the context? Help me understand.
I love this question because I would say that one of the big pandemics of our world right now is that of isolation, right?
Mm,
We have really a catastrophe happening around us where we have grown more distrustful of each other, the polarization, the lack of clarity about who's on my side, who's against me, what's safe out there. And we often also carry those kind of questions about safety even inside of us. Like, am I safe for me? Right? Am I
mm,
going to betray myself by getting lost? Like simple things like I'm going to get lost on scrolling the internet for too long. And the next thing I know, I've been in this uncomfortable position and I lost an hour of my day and whatever it is. Like, how do we be so gentle and compassionate with ourselves around all of it? But in terms of more connection, I think it's everything you named. Like, when I feel more connected on the inside, I'm going to make wiser choices for me. I'm going to
mm.
rebuild a sense of trustworthiness between me and me that I'm going to make intelligent choices, like about what I eat and when I eat. And my body is going to give me feedback about whether what I'm eating is actually digestible. It's going to help me make choices about who I relate to and is that other person really nourishing or am I going into a fear response and how do I want to wisely deal with that? But when I can deeply trust myself to make those intelligent choices, it also helps us with our relational intelligence, right? Like
Mm.
we have a better capacity to be in connection, even in the midst of difference and even in the midst of conflict without jumping into reactivity. I can pause, I can take that mindful breath, I can ride the wave of a strong emotion without jumping into making my point and pushing somebody further away inadvertently.
Wow. You said trust self. And then I thought about intuition and just how this might play an important part in the development of intuition.
Yes. Yes. So gorgeous. I love that you're linking it back here. So, very often, the way that I love to locate intuition from a body centered and a nervous system perspective is that your intuition lives here. It's like gut belly wisdom,
Mm.
that there is a way in which, I mean, we all have different ways in which we like get a hunch or get an inkling about something or we sense into something. But I think that there's a very core universal process in which our gut has a very simple language. You're digestible, your nourishment, I'm going to let you in as part of me, or you feel not so safe. I'm not so sure that I can digest this. Maybe that feels like it's just extraneous, it's waste, and I can let that move through. Or maybe that feels toxic and poisonous to me. And the gut gives a clear no, I'm going to eject that as quickly as possible so that I can keep the whole system safe. But that the gut belly wisdom is as true about the food that we ingest as it is about the relationships, the news, the world around us, the choices we make. Our gut is going to help us sense into that feels like a yes. That feels like a maybe. That feels like extraneous, not so important, or that feels like a no. Yeah. And when we listen to that intrinsic embodied source of intuition, we are better able to make those wise choices about who I'm moving towards. And I'm going to back up and I'm going to give a real clear example because I think examples are really helpful around this. But like working with an individual who experienced a lot of chronic childhood trauma, one of the things that she had to do in order to survive that home was she had to cut off from her embodied knowing. I need to I need to depend on these people, but those same people that I'm dependent upon are not safe for me. And so the chronic feeling inside of something doesn't feel right. When I'm a child and I'm completely dependent on you, I actually have to dial down that knowing in order to keep my attachment system up and running, in order to stay close to someone that I'm also receiving these facial expressions and voice tone and body language, or maybe they're hurting me, that are all cues of threat. So I learn how to dial down the felt sense of my body that knows that threat.
Yes.
And then fast forward into adulthood, we'll call that dissociation, that disconnection from the sensory knowing of the body. Then, fast forward into adulthood, I don't have that felt sense to help me guide my decisions in the world. So I'm guiding my decisions from a thinking about what should be right rather than a felt sense of what actually feels safe.
Mm. Wow. So, so profound. So profound. You talked about using this as preventative. And this very much excites me because I feel like a lot of psychiatry is all we wait until stuff hit the fan. And and can you paint me a picture of how we might be able to incorporate this into our schools?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Like, I've got a friend and colleague in the field that brings this into schools and teaches teachers about nervous system regulation so that they can bring it into their classrooms. I don't know if you've met Nikki Elliott, but she's an amazing resource out there for how we apply this information into schools and with kiddos. And as parents, right, like bringing this information in so that we can help our kids feel safe enough to listen to their bodies,
Yeah.
right? Classrooms, going back to classrooms, like all of the sit still in order to show obedience and learning, and got all the kids squirming in their seats and trying to be a good learner. Like what happens when we bring more movement into education, or desks where we've got little bicycle desks, or ways that we can not feel like we have to override the signals of the body to survive.
Wow. Oh, so important, so important. I do want to ask, uh, just a personal question. What does stepping into soul power mean for you?
Mm. Mm, mm. You know, I love this in so many ways. There is a way in which locating the soulfulness as a embodied spirituality is something that to me feels like the most empowered state that I can live from, because I'm filling my skin, I'm resting into the felt sense, and from there I feel like I can handle whatever comes my way. And I love to teach other people how to live from that place. But there's something else that stands out for me around the word soul. And it's a definition that I've used for many, many years. And it locates soul as the seat of meaningful experience. And I really love that because I think when we're in alignment with our values and our purpose and a sense of meaning in the world, and we can do that from bottom up and top down, then we've got that kind of full mind, body, spirit living.
Wow. You just said something. I can handle whatever comes my way. Yes, yes. And I love that that you're so passionate about teaching people to do that. I
Mm.
know that our audience is going to want to get in contact with you. Let us know how can they connect?
Yes. So it's Dr. Arielle Schwartz, and that's kind of the easiest way. Like if you just Google that one, but you can go to my website, which is drarielleschwartz.com. I have a second website that is resilienceinformedtherapy.com that talks about a lot of my professional trainings. I have 8 books out there, plus an audio CD program. And I'm running many, many programs that are all about nervous system health with the Shift Network. And within, like, even if you just go to YouTube, Dr. Arielle Schwartz, there's some 250 classes out there to guide you into embodied yoga practices and applied polyvagal theory.
Well, Dr. Arielle Schwartz, thank you so much for being on the show. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
If you haven't heard it yet today, I appreciate you. The soul in me honors the soul in you. If you'd like to see more episodes like this, please subscribe or click here. And friends, if this spoke to you, leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you.